Hey everybody, welcome to City Forum, our second City Forum of the semester. Thanks for coming. So what we've got today, well, I'm Alex Carter. I think I know literally everyone in the room, but I'm the faculty director of, faculty coordinator of City Forum this year. And today we've got a panel as part of the CRP Career Day. It's our executive panel. So the idea here is that we have 4 professionals who've been working in the planning field for some time, and they're here to share their experiences with you all. So I have a number of questions that I've prepared. I'm going to try to go through those, and then depending on time, at some point I'll open it up for questions from the audience. Okay. So the first thing is just self-introductions. We'll start here with Jeff. So if you could just go over when you graduated, where you're working now, and what do you do in your current position. Then we'll kind of go down the line.
Okay. Yeah. My name is Jeff Carrillo. I am a 2014 grad of CRP. I've definitely attended this as a student, so I'm glad to see everyone here. I came for more than the free lunch, but that certainly helped. I am a director of community development at GrantWorks, and so GrantWorks is a company that administers grants for rural and low-income communities. So we do rolling community development block grant funds through TDA and disaster recovery grants related to federally declared disasters through the General Land Office. Those are the 2 main things we do in my department. The company does many more grants and types of grants than that, but that's what we're focused on. And so I started off as a project manager in the community development department and then moved up to director over time. And so now I oversee project managers and kind of the initiatives of the department as a whole.
Hello, I'm Coleen Gentles. I'm the infrastructure manager for the Safe Routes to School program in the City of Austin Public Works Department. I graduated in 2016. I've actually been in the city the whole time since I graduated. I started off as an intern in the sidewalk program in Public Works as a GIS analyst. Then it turned into a long-term temp position, and then finally a full-time permanent position. So I was there for 5 years, and then I moved to the Safe Routes to School program almost 2 years ago. And over in the Safe Routes to School program, I'm overseeing the 2016 and 2020 mobility bond funding. So $47.5 million to build infrastructure around 137 elementary and middle schools, including sidewalks, bike lanes, pedestrian islands, curb extensions, lighting, all sorts of things to get kids walking and biking to school safely.
Caleb Roberts, graduated in 2018. I was also the president of our student organization. It was CRIPSO. I think somebody changed the name. I don't know what it is now, but whatever that student organization was for 17-18, I was president. I work for Gap Strategies right now, which is a private consultant. I'm a senior planner there. Also just got my AICP. So what I do right now is work comprehensive plans. We have the city of Lancaster. We're doing one in the DFW area. We do private contracts. We also do community engagement level things like for Plano, we're doing a community engagement project on short-term rentals and the pros and cons of that in their neighborhood. So it really just depends on the contract, and we are variable and flexible as a small firm. But I come from it from a community organizing perspective. I was a community organizer before I came to UT. That's kind of the side of the spectrum I was on. Then I worked for a group called Texas Housers that's based here in Austin after I graduated from 2018 to about 2021, and then got into private consulting. So been all over the map except for maybe the city side.
Hi all, I'm Erica Leek. I'm currently an officer leading inclusive planning for the City of Austin Housing and Planning Department, which basically means that I lead most of the planning activities for the city other than urban design. In terms of education, I am not a CRP grad. I got a master's of architecture from University of Washington, Seattle, and then did doctoral work at UC Berkeley. And I have worked for the city now for 16 years. I started in the planning department doing small area planning, including many lessons learned, the East Riverside corridor, regulating plan process. And then I moved over into the affordable housing department to get a better understanding of, you know, how we can better provide housing for people. And when the two departments merged a couple of years ago, we intentionally created a new sort of definition of planning so that it's uses a racial equity lens and really tries to put people first in that planning process. And so one of the big projects that part of my team is working on is equitable transit-oriented development planning around Project Connect stops, and I know Alex has been involved in that. And so there's some exciting stuff going on, and, you know, fingers crossed.
Great, thanks everybody. The next question is about just reflecting on the path that you've taken to get where you are. So I think sometimes students think that they have to have like a really concrete idea about that, you know, I'm going to hit this step, then this next step, and then I'm going to achieve this position. So I want to know if you all feel like you had that kind of plan in mind to get where you are right now, or more likely if there were kind of unexpected twists and turns and how you navigated those. So does anyone want to volunteer to go first so we don't go in the same order? Yeah, Erica? Okay,
Yeah, so mine's totally like not what I had planned. So I was in a PhD program, intended to go the academic route, and then, you know, life intervened, and I ended up moving to Austin, and decided I really needed to get a job because I had been a student for way too long, and ended up getting a job with the city's planning department, and, you know, without a planning background, really, and have just been really glad that I was able to get involved in, you know, something very different than I had planned, and trying to think about, you know, how to better shape our community and make it be a more equitable place. So it was not at all what I planned, but I'm really, really glad that it wasn't what I planned.
Going online? Okay, I got it. So for me, absolutely not. I had no idea that this would be how my career path went. First of all, I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, so nowhere close to here at all. I just came down because it's warm. But, you know, after I graduated from school, Dr. Mueller and Dr. Oden really helped me get a job with Texas Housers. They thought I would be a good fit. I had some community organizing background, and that connection there allowed me to get my first job. And then while I was in school, I started an internship just on my own, went online and found an internship, which happens to be the firm I work for now. So really for me, it was those connections that I built that allowed me to go on to my next phases, because when I was at Texas Housers, the internship, the gap strategy that I'm working now, called me and said, "Hey, what are you doing? Would you like to come work for us? We have some work for you." And that's how I grew and expanded. And, you know, if there's another place, that will probably be the same way. Is the connections that I make and the people that I meet are the ones that see something benefit and want me to be a part of that. And I think that's a great thing. It's not necessarily knowing your path, it's knowing the people you want to be with and making sure they want you to be a part of something that can push you to the next space.
Yeah. I'm sort of the same way. I moved here from Maryland, so I was only going to be here for 2 years, and then I'm going to go back to the East Coast because who wants to live in Texas? But 2 years has turned into almost 10, so I took 3 years to finish my degree. So if you're on a 3-year track, don't feel bad. You can still graduate, get a job, and, you know, life will be okay. I took an internship, I mentioned, as a GIS analyst for the city. So they literally hired me to oversee high school interns editing like sidewalks and curb ramps in GIS. So a very specific, very basic task. I was not the most qualified GIS person, so if you feel like you're not a pro, that's okay. But they liked my character and personality enough to train me to be better at GIS because they wanted someone that they could trust to like literally watch these high school students, which is what I did. I kind of watched the high school students edit basic things in GIS. And so that turned into, like I mentioned, a temp job and a permanent job. So I kind of joked that like they kept paying me at the city, so I kept like showing up, which is how I still am there today. But I really got to grow at the city. So I started off doing one thing, GIS, and then I moved into more of the construction management. So helping project managers do actual construction of sidewalks in terms of the funding, getting aside documents, going meet with homeowners, et cetera. So it kind of really expanded from there. And then 2 years ago, I moved to Safe Routes to School to do sort of the same role, but looking at it from a Safe Routes perspective instead of just for like citywide on sidewalks. And so I think I would say like definitely don't be afraid to kind of take a job that you're not gonna think it's gonna be permanent because you just never know what'll happen. And then you may or may not leave Austin, you know, or you may come back, but also be flexible about that too.
Yeah, I think that's a good last point to piggyback off. So when I finished, I was pretty focused on like affordable housing policy and equity, like, but I didn't have a clear idea of what I wanted to do. I'd worked a lot with Dr. Mueller, and I really knew felt like I wanted to work in that field. I met the person who would later become my supervisor, my first supervisor at GrantWorks, at the happy hour, or the like meet and greet that's this afternoon. And I was like, she was a CRP grad, and I thought, you know, this place sounds cool, I'll have to remember it. And then an opening came the summer after I graduated, and I got hired there the week before I turned in my PR. And so I've been there ever since. And when I started, I thought, this is interesting. I like getting to go to all these small towns in Texas. I really enjoy seeing different places. You know, I'll see how this goes. And then I think I really got sort of fulfilled by, for lack of a better word, like stats. Like our projects are 2 to 3 years. They move quickly. You're kind of always having to stay on track. And then it didn't feel that long that I had seen our projects completed. And I would go to these little towns and see like, you have like no revenue. You will never be able to fund any of these improvements you need. It all has to be through grants. We're the ones that help you with your grants. And to see actual change in these communities and to be able to rack up like, here's all these projects I finished. Because I'm pretty ADD. And I think my mind was like, I'm gonna write the policy to end all policies to change this massive structure, state structure, federal structure, and in reality, like that, you're gonna write something for like 10 years, and it's gonna sit on someone's desk, and they're not gonna read it or do anything with it. I felt like that's probably where I would go, but this is actually more suited to my personality, and to make me feel like I'm making achievements. And I know there's other things I could do that I would probably, you know, may end up working in equity or affordable housing at some point, but realizing this kind of work is best suited for me. And I wouldn't have made that choice had I known, but once I actually was in the field, I felt like this is the kind of thing I'm meant to do.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, that echoes with my experience as well. I mean, I was in college, and then just getting feedback from my professors in college, like, oh, you're good at school, you should stay in school. And I was like, okay, I'll stay in school. And then I'm in a master's degree, and they're like, oh, you're pretty good, you should get a doctorate. I'm like, okay, I'll stay. And I was like, okay, well, you should try to be a professor. And I was like, all right, well, I guess that's what I'll do. So I wasn't planning to become a tenure track faculty member, but was getting feedback along the way that might be a good option for me, and it felt good. I enjoyed the work that I was doing. So similar to your experience, Coleen, I think, where you're getting positive feedback from your colleagues, and then that feels good, and then you stay and you get more responsibilities.
Yeah.
So the next question is about what you have found. Jeff, you were kind of touching on this, but what have you found most fulfilling or rewarding so far in your career? And then also, what have some of the challenges and frustrations been that you've experienced working in the field?
We can go reverse. Since I kind of answered, I'll have a shorter answer. Challenges, I think, and this is something from my cohort, because a lot of us are still pretty close, and we would talk a lot, in the first few years about what our jobs are like once we were in the real world. And I noticed the theme of, I would say, like, it's a lot of paperwork. It's a lot more paperwork and reporting and CYA and documenting things than I had thought. I think I just imagined, like, I'm going to be out there and, like, doing stuff. I'm not going to be, like, writing. But then I realized this might just be it. It might be that is what we're supposed to do. And I would talk to other people in jobs, and they were doing different things than me. And that was kind of their view, too, was it's a lot of paperwork. And it's a lot of reporting, and we would all agree that there was agency slow progress, like either at the city or if you're working with the state or the federal agencies. And I think I just overcame that and kind of got zen about it, of this is the pace that I am restricted to. There's only so much I can control. And the reporting, like, that's kind of what we're trained to do. We're kind of trained to do, you all do this, like, a lot of different hats and looking at things kind of holistically, and was like, that's what I'm paid to do. All of us that do these different roles, we kind of have that training from our graduate school, that we're the ones that write the analysis and consider all the different angles, and just kind of felt like this is something that I'm supposed to do. And once I accepted these things, it was a lot easier.
Yeah, I think similar for me. I really love just getting infrastructure on the ground. Like, there's something about, like, planning, designing, getting the sidewalk built, like 6 months later, and then you see people walking on it, pushing strollers, wheelchairs. It's amazing getting just facilities out there in the neighborhoods, just to have everybody use them that wasn't using them before. They're walking the street, now they have a sidewalk or a bike lane that wasn't there before. So I love just getting the infrastructure down quickly and efficiently. I think one of the frustrating things, though, is if they tell you, like, bureaucracy in the government's real, like, yes, it's for sure real. Like, you'd be surprised how long it takes to get permits to do our own work in the right of way. Like, sometimes it's just, like, frustrating uphill battle. And so we had to do a lot of, like, processes, a lot of meetings just to, like, get documents in order just to start construction projects. And so I think I've been frustrated by how long it'll take internally for reviews to happen. One of the other things, too, that they don't really tell you in the government is, like, it's really hard to get promotion. So a lot of people will do lateral shifts just to, like, move up. So I changed programs in the city just to basically get, like, a new title and to move up. And that's very common. So it's hard to just say, like, okay, you're doing well, we'll just, like, change your title. It doesn't really work that way in the city, the way budgets and departments work. So that's another frustrating thing. But yeah, it's definitely really good just to see what wasn't there to what's there now. So I love that.
Yeah, on that, nothing there to something there, the one thing I loved about going to consulting was there was a set budget for what you wanted to do. It's like, we have, $250,000 to do this. And that's, from a community organizer perspective, I was always trying to fight to see where the money was. Can we get some money? Like, any money would be helpful to like, no, we have money so you can go do good work. But I think where the challenge comes in is, sometimes as a planner, and in my background, your job won't fulfill everything you want to see. And, like, I think that's the hard thing, is because you're looking for your job and where your employer is to fill that gap and to do the right things. And there's just a bunch of, bureaucracy, a bunch of other real life things that aren't just anyone's fault, like real life constraints that keep you from seeing kind of your perfect planning vision or whatever that may be. And I think what I found lately is that me and my free time and how I volunteer and where I spend my time with this knowledge can possibly be more of a benefit to people than just me and my job. And so just to not think of your whole life as a planner as an occupation. It is a kind of a way of life, not to be cheesy, but it is a thought process that many people don't know or acknowledge is a real thing.
Yeah, that I can't. I mean, there are so many times when neighbors will be like, "So what's going on with this or that or the other?" And it's true that, like, when you're doing planning work, like, you actually do have to keep track of kind of a lot of different things that are going on, because they're all interrelated, and you never know kind of how the things might intersect in a way that can have a positive or negative impact on sort of on what you're doing. And so so trying to think about like different scales, I think is actually a fascinating thing to think about in terms of like the big scale stuff takes a long time. And you might like, I'm not going to say never see the results of it, but you know, or you might see the results of it and be like, oh gosh, like that was not what we wanted it to be. But yeah, so there's a lot of patience. You have to have a lot of patience to do kind of the long range planning stuff, and then you have to be willing to like look at what didn't work well and be willing to say, okay, this was a problem and now we have to figure out a different way to do it. And so I think it takes some kind of humility to be able to understand that. But you know, I love this idea of like, if you're you want to see something done person, like there are lots of jobs that need that. And if you're okay with like let's think about the next, 60 years of the city, then, you know, there are those types of positions too.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of goals that we have as planners that it's taken me a long time to realize that we may not actually see progress in our lifetimes. And so just being comfortable with the fact that there were folks who came before you that make it possible for you to do the work today, and then you're kind of passing along the work that you do to folks in the future. And that just kind of being okay with that has been of great comfort to me. So this is kind of related to the next question, but what advice would you give to students on building careers that are meaningful and enjoyable? Anyone want to take that one?
That's tough.
Yeah.
I can go first.
Wait, yeah, okay.
I guess I would say as a student, take all the classes that interest you. That was one of the things that was really important to me. So my background pre-UT was a bachelor's in biology and a minor in ancient studies. And I did work in nonprofit world and the federal government for a bit before coming to UT. And so I came in kind of with the mindset that like I was going to be an environmental planner because that's what my background was like environmental science and biology. But somebody dared me to take a transportation class, and so I was like, I don't know. And this guy was like, no, like transportation planning is where all the money is. And I was like, that's a really interesting perspective. Anyway, I took it. Yeah, okay. So I was like, I don't want to say it, but anyway.
People like to drive cars.
So I did, and I actually like fell in love with transportation planning. Like I never really thought about it. I was so focused on like caring for the environment and the animals, and then now it's like caring for the people in the environment too. And it was a really different like perspective shift that I loved. And so I think my advice would be is to just take that random class that you're like, I don't know, I'm not sure if I'll use it for anything, but I really think I'll enjoy it. Would be a piece of advice because you just never know. I took so they had like the GIS class as part of the program, and like the, I guess, advanced GIS class with the second level. And I took both of those classes just because I wanted to get, I took the second class to get better at GIS, and I didn't know that that would lead into an internship. It was one of those things where it's like, I want to get this skill set done. So I think that's also an interesting possibility that you might just get an internship that turns into a job, or an internship that just gets you where you need to be in a certain window of time too. So don't be afraid to like take another class to like improve your skills, and maybe you just use it for a short window or not. You never know. So.
We have lots of great transportation electives in CRP.
and we're going to have some internships this summer, so you know, just
keep your ears open.
Exactly.
Great.
I'll go next. And also shameless plug. We're looking for interns too. So we have tons of opportunities. But I would say like I feel like I took advantage of UT as a whole and all of its resources. Like one of the things that I'm happy about is in 2017 I took a trip to Brazil for 2 months and Rio de Janeiro and did a study on urban planning. African ancestry and how that impacted, and Black feminist collective called Carrillo down there. Something I was not thinking about beforehand, but all of a sudden You know, you meet people from different schools and they're like, hey, would you come? And you're like, can I set up a kind of a master level analysis of some of the things that are going on there? And you're just able to piece things together. And next thing you know, I'm in Rio, you know, which is cool. Definitely fun. But it's those kind of things that really like add some flair or color to my time here. It's like I really went and experienced something different and had to look at planning and actually was jealous of their transportation system. I don't think I would have known how good, you know, you see it in books, but the cleanliness, and you just get to see how other places run. And I think just taking full advantage of the opportunities here. This is a major institution with a lot of connections, and you just have to be like, okay, I want to go figure something out, and I think it's possible here.
Yeah, I think like, you know, if you'd have told me, if I knew now what I knew then before I took classes, you know, there were probably, if I like surveying the job market, I would probably be like, I should take more urban design. There's a lot of the jobs seem geared to that, but that's not really my passion. That's not really what moves me. So and furthermore, there's no classes that I would trade out. Like literally every class I took, like I don't regret taking any of them, and I got so much out of them. So it's hard to imagine what I would swap out anyway. But that's one where I feel like, yeah, that would make my resume better. That would make me more equipped to do different types of jobs, but that's not really where I'm suited. There are people like, you know, like let's say Kevin Howard. And like Kevin does this stuff. I'm never going to beat Kevin at this. But I have these other things where getting to know people, where I realized from my position once I kind of got it and saw what I would really be doing was a lot of interacting with a lot of people. I mean, I interact with a lot of city government, county government, and direct actual beneficiaries, direct actual people, and feeling like this is something that I really enjoy. This is meaningful to me, is working with, you know, these people in these usually pretty like low-income communities, and feeling like this is meaningful to me. And there are a lot of things that would be meaningful to me, but I found in this role like something that was like that. Now, if I didn't find that, I probably would have come to a decision like I need to pivot to find something with that. And when I was planning my PR and I went to Dr. Roden with like my 7 or 8 ideas and was kind of like, is this one good? And he's kind of like, sure, it's good, but like you gotta get one that's gonna like you're gonna be working on this a lot. You're gonna be like up late at night. You gotta find something that like gets you going. And I was like, okay, yeah, I think it's this then. And I remember that at my job at one point, like, yeah, you know what? I'm excited to go to this job every day. And I'm never bored. I never don't have stuff to do. And feeling like, yeah, this is meaningful to me. And that's changed it in now that I'm like, I wouldn't take a job that was not meaningful, even if on paper it looked good. It would have to be something where I felt it like every day.
And I would just encourage everyone to, you know, to reach out to people who are doing the types of jobs that you are interested in, and just, you know, ask them if they have 15, 20 minutes, you know, and I think most people are totally happy to do that. And so don't be scared. Like the worst thing they can do is tell you no, but I would guess that most of them won't. And, you know, ask them those questions like, what do you like about your job? What don't you like about your job? So yeah.
I do have
Just
one
cold call.
One thing I wanted to add that's actually I forgot, that's probably some like a legitimate piece of advice. My PR that I eventually decided on, I won't go into what it is, but it was geared towards where I realized at one point I'm going to be interviewing professionals that are working at places I might want to work at. And that was not intentional, but I realized like I'm sort of getting FaceTime with these people that I might want to interview with. And that was great because there were some fields where I felt like, I don't think I want to do this. Like this person doesn't seem like they're not making it seem like something I want to do. So if you're a first year, if you're a second year, it's probably too late. But if you're a first year, that's something to consider, is like gearing it towards meeting people that you might want to work with as a way to kind of gauge it. And you just get to meet them and they get to know you.
Yeah, and also thinking about the PR as a piece of work that you can showcase when you're on the job market.
Mhm.
Right? It becomes part of your portfolio. You can talk about what you did. So you want to make it something that you can be proud of, kind of showing off. Okay, so this next question, I'll just remind everyone that we're being recorded, so keep that in mind. But, how have you dealt with times when your personal beliefs, principles, or politics have conflicted with what you've been asked to do or work on? So there are a lot of normative ideas in planning about we have equity and advocacy planning, thinking about folks who've been historically burdened by planning decisions and kind of improving the conditions that they face. Those goals don't always align with what folks are asked to work on in the field. Sometimes they do, and that's great. But how have you navigated those types of challenges? Not everybody has to respond, but if you've got examples.
I have one right away, and that's on.
No, go ahead.
So I have to be very careful about not naming who these organizations
Yeah,
are.
just be very,
Yeah,
very general.
general.
Yeah.
But there's an organization in the city that we worked in that had ran a bridge through a historically disadvantaged community. And this bridge has been there for 50, 60 years. They've removed the community, bought out the community through eminent domain, and are going to do the same thing again recently. And we're working on a project to kind of mend those lines. But in talking with the client, as we're trying to mend those historical lines, the client comes and says, well, yeah, we're doing all that stuff. We're going to put parks and pathways. That'll be great. But do you know on the north side, we're going to put in a whole industrial park? So I want you to include that in your plans, that alongside of all the parks you're building, we're going to put an industrial park right on the north side of that neighborhood. Hadn't told us this before. And so I'm sitting there with it, my face is probably like shocked, and I'm like trying to, take my Zoom off of video so I can like curse or something.
Check
But
your face.
it's one of those things where you realize that I'm not going into this community and supporting this project if that's what you're going to do. But how do I keep this business relationship that's far beyond just my relationship? You talk to your boss, you tell them where you stand, but also you make sure you all have that conversation with the client early on. Like, I have to know, first of all, does my organization, do you all support this? Because that will probably change how I view my, my time here. But I think you have to be willing to have that conversation, and not just with the client. Like, you want to go through the proper channels, but early on is going like, this is not good planning. And I don't think you have to say this is actually not good planning. And I think you can fall back on, you're trained in this, you're going to be a professional. You can say, hey, in my, professional opinion, this is not good urban planning. And, that is a conversation that can be had. And if it gets, and they want to pursue, then you have some decisions to make. But you are a professional, say what your professional opinion, and stand on the things that you do believe, but have that conversation early and not when the project is kicking off and they're cutting the tape or something like that.
Yeah, something that's come up for me is we're very focused on council districts, so I'm not sure how well people are thinking about districts in the city or in students as students. But we've had issues where our plans will say, bike lanes should be all over the city to have this full bike network. And then you go to certain council districts and the neighborhood's like, well, we don't want the bike lanes. Like, we wanted the sidewalks and the streetlights because we don't feel safe walking at night by ourselves. And so it's kind of interesting when you have this plan of like, well, this is how we build out the network to make everything connecting and cohesive. But then you actually talk to the community and they're like, well, that's not really what we want. Like, we want this instead. And so then it becomes like, can you reallocate the funding to get what they want? Like, is that actually part of the plan? Is the sidewalk ranked high enough to justify the funding that's, from the bond, which is property taxes and tax dollars? And it gets all like super complicated and messy. And so I've had to navigate these meetings with like council districts, offices, as well as like homeowners, with what they want versus what the plans say, and then how we can get to this happy medium. And so it's been very interesting. Sometimes like you'll create these plans and then you find out like, well, the people didn't really want them. And it's like, well, the plan's been approved. Like, we have to build, like, we're now mandated to now build out this infrastructure that's actually not wanted by the community. So kind of balancing out those needs has been an interesting challenge I've had in my role. Yeah, drama at the city.
Jeff, Erica, you want to?
I don't really have any examples.
I mean, Well, I guess maybe I'll use a state example. Working in the state of Texas is hard. I worked on it was basically when tenants are displaced due to demolition. We were trying to create a program so that the developers would have to pay for relocation costs, and so so council passed it. We were really excited, and then the state came back and basically made it illegal to charge that fee to them, and so. I think it's slightly different than your question, but it is one of the frustrations, and I'm sure there are different frustrations in every state, but that's one of the potential frustrations in Texas.
Okay, I've just got a couple more, and then we'll open it up for audience questions. This one's kind of more instrumental, but what kinds of emerging jobs or areas of growth do you see in the type of work that you do? And where do you see the most need or space for people who are coming out of planning school now? Question about the job market.
Well, I'll speak for the housing and planning department. We have a lot of job openings or to be or soon job openings, and I would say. Even just within the housing and planning department, we need people who have a number of different skills and interests. So, certainly GIS skills, but also financial skills. Since we do the affordable housing financing, we need people who love to see if they can make a capital stack work for affordable housing. We need people who understand how to change processes to get to more equitable outcomes, and that can be that can require a long-term strategy with lots of different steps. So I don't know, I don't know all the different facets of kind of the types of classes that people do at CRP, but I imagine that for most of them, there is a need, and keep your eyes open, please.
Yeah, I would say definitely at the city, with the passage of the 2016, 2018, and 2020 mobility bonds, there's been a ton of jobs popping up. So if you're interested in mobility and transportation, definitely keep an eye on the city. My team in particular is, fingers crossed, I'm going to get approved for a full-time position that would start October 1st. So if you're looking for a job doing project coordinator work in Safe Routes to School, let me know. It should come up hopefully in the next 6-ish months. But there's lots of funding available for transportation. There's also from the TxDOT side as well. The rumor is the 2024 ballot is going to have something for I-35 expansion, so that'll probably be more jobs there too. So if you're interested in staying in Austin and you're interested in transportation, there's just so many jobs that are going to be popping up in the next couple of years. I mean, we're moving and shaking on all sorts of infrastructure, from rail to buses to micromobility with sidewalks and bike lanes. So there's a lot of opportunities here to grow, and keep an open mind.
The I-35 expansion jobs will be at the city or with Texas?
It'll be with the state, but the rumor is it's going to end up on the ballot in 2024. That's the rumor we're hearing.
We can talk offline about that. I'm curious.
But I mean, there are jobs related to the cap and stitch at the city.
Exactly. So yeah.
Great.
What I would add is not necessarily about a specific job. Is some of the things I see in consulting is I don't know how best to describe it, but a decentralized planning in terms of small outfits, nonprofits that are hired by people to do specific tasks. I have a group of friends of mine who started this women-led nonprofit called Rail Planning in Dallas, that does kind of like a nonprofit formula for consulting, and they're really specific on urban planning, and all of their kind of community outreach now comes into play when they know people with skills, and they can get an engineer, they can get a urban designer. So just in that space, and I've seen other groups like that, I just think there's an opportunity. If you have a skill, you have a passion, and you can somehow, connect with the community around you, you can really find a way to make a living with you and a few, small groups of people that and like what they do, and you all can get projects and, go do your own thing, get projects together. Those are the kind of things that, I think is going to uptick in the future as, a lot of communities, especially in the DFW region, need help doing small things. Hey, we need you to come and do an engagement because we can't be seen as having our hands on this. It's too politically, visceral or something like that. So they want you to come in there and do that. And if you have that talent, you have that skill, you've done it before, you have a distinct opportunity, and you build a connection with that client that you can use in years in the future. So just the opportunity for you to use your skills in a less structured way, I think is going to become more prevalent, and just something for you all to watch out for.
I touched on this a little bit earlier, that I think if you wanted to get a traditional technical planner job with like a private firm, probably having a little bit more urban design skills, which I had one friend say, like, our firm actually just hires architects. They like hire architects and teach them the planning side, which seems a little unfair. But so that's one thing. But outside of that, I feel like you just have so much of a diverse skill set when you leave the program that you can fit in anywhere. And just to do a plug for ours, that our department and our company, but especially our department, draws very heavily from CRP. The top 2 people are CRP. There's there's a high percentage of our staff that are CRP. Anytime a CRP resume shows up in our pile, it always goes to the next level, just because I know they've got the brain. Like, they are probably someone who is a self-starter, that is just for lack of a better word, a nerd. Somebody who's just a nerd that's like, I want to know about everything. I want to be good at everything that there is to do, and they are probably willing to dig in and figure it out if there's no one there to tell them, there's no playbook. And we just think, like, you're not going to know everything to do at this job when you get here. There is not a person that would, but you are malleable and you're into it and you will get it. And I feel like that's kind of the case for a lot of the jobs that are outside of my company, where people, that's kind of the mindset is, you get in and we'll teach you how to do it. But the important thing is that it seems like you have the capacity, that you're interested in that to begin with.
It's a great endorsement for the CRP program. We'll quote that in our materials.
We want nerds. You guys are the nerds we're looking for.
Okay, so last question, then we'll open it up to the audience. But what is one thing that you know now that you wish you knew when you graduated?
You're gonna be fine. Like, I mentioned, like, literally I was sitting here at this event, like March 2014, just like, what am I gonna do? What do I want to do? Am I ever gonna get a job? And you're gonna be fine.
Oh, that's good.
I would say expect the unexpected. I came in with like a plan of like 2 years in and out of Texas, and now it's like almost 10, which is like mind blowing. And there's a lot of like personal life that happened along the way, and my mom retired and moved, and so it got really complicated moving back home. But I would just say, kind of be flexible with, like you make a plan. We have this joke at church, like we make a plan and God laughs and changes it. So be flexible that your plan might change, and it could open up into something totally unexpected that's like way better than you can ever imagine. So be open to the possibilities.
I would say be curious and be confident. I like when I graduated, it's like you do know a lot. You do have some skills, and depending on where you work, I have a lot of planners or very few people that understand planning, and you'll be competitive in terms of your knowledge of planning, and no to the CRP thing, write it down. But I think also be curious though. Like you have a starting point, and it really gets a lot deeper from there. It really can, and just the history of some of the things that we work on, some of the emerging technology, emerging thought processes on it. And so continue to be curious, but also, speak up when you can. Like you've done this, you have thoughts, you have ideas, and be confident that you've fleshed them out pretty well here, and you'll continue to.
I love the be curious. I think that's fabulous advice. And I think to build on that, to build on all of it really is, be brave. It does require reaching out. I'm an introvert, so meeting new people is always a little hard, but getting to know people is usually one of the best ways to find out about jobs, at least to find out about jobs. So be brave, be curious, and I look forward to seeing all the amazing things that you do.
Great, thanks. Okay, so questions from the audience? Oh, wait, we can thank our panel.